In this tutorial, I'm going to be showing you 4 easy borders that will work for any crochet blanket. For all 4 of these borders, I worked a round of US single crochet as a foundation round. This is entirely optional. Feel free to work these borders directly onto whatever your project is. If you do want to do one of these foundation rounds, work a single crochet into each stitch and each space across the whole side of your blanket, and then into the corners work 3 single crochets. Repeat that all the way around your blanket, and then you're ready to start crocheting on one of these borders. The easiest border in this tutorial is the Zig Zag border, and it pairs really well if you've used the zigzag join to join your granny squares. So let's learn the zigzag border first. So if you're joining a new colour, it doesn't matter which stitch you use to join this. I've just picked a random one here near the corner. To do the zigzag border is quite straightforward. First we make 1 chain, then we slip stitch in the next stitch. Then we make 1 chain, then slip stitch in the next stitch. Make 1 chain, and slip stitch in the next stitch, and we repeat this all the way around our blanket, and when we get to the corners we don't do anything differently, we just chain 1, slip stitch in the next stitch all the way around your blanket. And then I have a bit of a tip for getting a super neat finish, so come back to this tutorial once you've got all the way around your blanket and I'll show you how to do a neat finish. So I've worked all the way around my little blanket sample and I've got 1 stitch left unworked, so I'm going to do my slip stitch into that stitch, and then I'm going to do 1 chain, and then we're going to do an invisible join to make this zigzag seam seamless. Snip your yarn tail, leaving an end long enough to weave in later. Use your crochet hook to pull that end through that chain we made. Don't tighten this here, we're going to leave it nice and loose. Then thread your end onto a needle. And now I'm going to show you how we do that invisible join. So here what I'm going to do is, this was our first chain, so this loop here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my needle underneath both of those loops there of that chain. So I'm going in there. I'm going to pull that tail through like that. Now I haven't pulled this here really tight. What I want with this strand of yarn here to be similar to the other strands of yarn either side of it. Then I'm going to take my yarn needle and I'm going to put it through the back loop of our last chain. So I'm putting it through there. And what that does is gives us a seamless finish to the zigzag join. I can now go ahead and weave my tail in, and that's how you do the zigzag join. So the next border we're going to learn is the faux crab stitch border. I've shown real crab stitch on this channel before, but I've never shown this easy way of doing a faux crab stitch, and it creates this really beautiful like cabled edge to your blanket. So my preference for this join is to join my yarn into the corner stitch, but it's completely up to you. You can join it along the side of your blanket if you want to. So this seam is one of the most fun ones, but it's really important that you keep your tension nice and loose. So we're going to be pulling up our loops a little bit more than we normally would. So for example, for this loop, I'd normally have it about here, but I'm going to pull it up a little bit just so it's a little bit looser than I would normally crochet. So now we're going to start making a single crochet in the next stitch. So I'm going to put my hook into the next stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, and again I'm going to pull this loop up a little bit more than I normally would. And then here comes the fun bit. We're actually going to swing our crochet hook all the way around 360 degrees. So watch what I'm doing here. I'm taking my crochet hook and I'm literally turning it all the way around like that. Then yarn over and pull through both loops on your hook. So now let's do that same stitch in the next stitch. So I'm going to put my hook in, yarn over and pull up a loop and pull it up so it's a little looser than we would normally do it. Then turn my hook 360 degrees to twist those loops on the hook. Yarn over and pull through both of those loops on the hook, and I'll show you it several more times. So I'm going to put my hook in the next stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, pull it up a little bit looser than I normally would, and I'm going to spin my crochet hook It's kind of hard to show this without because my hand automatically wants to cover the camera of what I'm doing. So let me try this again. So I'm spinning my hook around like that, literally spinning it around in a circle to twist up those loops. I hope that was a little bit easier for you to see. And I yarn over and pull through 2 loops. And again, put my hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop and keep pulling until it's a little bit looser than we would normally do. Then spin your hook around 360 degrees to twist those loops, yarn over and pull through 2. Now it can take a bit of practice to get those loops even. You can see here my edging looks a little bit uneven. Those last loops I pulled up were perhaps a little looser than the ones before. So this edging does take a little bit of practice, but if you've got good control of your tension, then you're golden. You could also use a slightly larger crochet hook as well if you're struggling to pull up those loops. So we're going to continue doing these faux crab stitches into each stitch around, including the corner stitches. We're not actually doing anything different on the corners. Even those corner stitches, we're doing this same faux crab stitch. So continue working that all the way around your blanket, then come back to this tutorial and I'll show you how we get a neater finish at the edge of the round. So I've continued that stitch all the way around my blanket, and if you have a look, my last stitch was in the stitch before we joined our yarn, and we're going to do one final stitch back into that same stitch where we joined our yarn. So I'm going to make one of those faux crab stitches again. And then next we're going to fasten off, and there's a way of doing this to kind of connect this bit up here down here. So first snip your yarn, pull your tail through that end. And then what we're going to do here is I'm going to put my hook from back to front into the stitch, the next stitch here. So if I bring my hook up through that stitch there, and I'm just going to grab this tail with that hook and pull the tail through. And what this does is if we give this a pull, it kind of snugs up this border here to give a bit of a seamless finish. My tension's a bit wonky here, that's why it looks like this, but if you do it neatly, I'll show you the join on my other sample. So apparently I can't do anything neatly today. So on this one, I've joined it along the side. You can see it's a lot more seamless there when your tension either side is even. Right, let's move on to the next border. So the next border we're going to learn is called the Picot border, and the first 2 borders we learned can be worked over any number of stitches. But for this border, if you have a look, it's actually worked over 2 stitches. So I'm going to explain how we work this border on both even and odd number of stitches along the side of your blanket. Hope that makes sense. If not, I'll explain it when we get there. So for this border, I prefer to join my colour to the corner stitch. So start by making a chain 1, that does not count as a stitch. Now work a single crochet back into the same stitch. So that's a single crochet in US terms. Next we're going to make a picot. To make a picot, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then you need to slip stitch in the first chain. Some people like to just go into the chain like that. I prefer to pick up the back bump. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my chain over. You can see there's the back bump of that first chain there, and I'm going to slip stitch into that back bump. You can see that's made a nice pointy picot there. Next, skip 1 stitch and work a single crochet into the next stitch. We're now going to repeat this across the side of the blanket until we get to the next corner. So I'll show you that picot again. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Take a look at that first chain, turn the chain over and find the back bump there. Slip stitch into it. Then skip 1 stitch, single crochet into the next stitch. So you can see there we've got this cute picot border starting. So repeat those steps all the way along until you reach the next corner. Feel free to rewind and slow down this tutorial using your settings in YouTube. I'll meet you back at this corner. So I've continued crocheting along the side of this little sample and I'm almost at a corner, and I've just popped a stitch marker in just so I can explain something here. So I've popped this stitch marker in the corner stitch, so that's the second single crochet of this group of 3 single crochets in the corner of my blanket. So if the number of stitches along the side of your blanket is an odd number, like me, you will have 1 stitch here before your corner stitch. If your blanket has an even number, you will have 2 stitches here. So you're either going to be skipping 1 or 2 stitches before you work into this corner here. So I'm just going to be skipping 1, but don't be worried if there's 2 stitches here instead of 1. You've not done anything wrong. So I'm just going to pop this stitch marker out. I'm going to work one of those picots. 1, 2, 3. And then my next single crochet is going to be in a corner, and in the corners for this border we're going to be working a bit of a corner group to get a nice picot right in the very corner here. So to do that, work a single crochet into that corner stitch, then we're going to work a picot, so 3 chains, 1, 2, 3, and a slip stitch in the back bump. And then rather than skipping 1 here and then single crochet in the next stitch, we're going to single crochet back into the same corner stitch. So I'm going to single crochet back into that corner there. And that gives us a nice picot in the corner. So repeat this for all 4 sides of your blanket, working those single crochets and picots along the side, and then in the corner remembering to work 2 single crochets with a picot between them. So work all the way around your blanket, and I'll meet you back here at the end of the round and I'll show you how we finish off. So I've made it all the way around my blanket, and to finish off this final corner I've just made a picot after my last single crochet, and then skip a stitch, single crochet back into that corner space where we joined our yarn. Not corner space, sorry, corner stitch. That was a habit there. Then I'm going to do 1 final picot. So my chain 3 and slip stitch. And then I find for this join that the invisible join doesn't make much of a difference here, so I just finish off with a slip stitch into the top of that first stitch that we made there. So now feel free to fasten off and weave in your ends. So the final border we're going to learn is the bobble border. So bobble stitch is worked from the wrong side, so I'm going to turn my little blanket sample over, and then I'm going to join my border colour to... You can pretty much do this in any stitch again, but I just like to start in the corner so I kind of know where I am and where I'm starting. So I'm going to start in this corner here. So next, chain 1 and then a single crochet back into the same stitch. So we're now going to do a bobble in the next stitch, and a bobble is essentially the same as a cluster stitch worked from the wrong side on a row of single crochets to form the bobble. So I'll show you how that works. So we're going to make a cluster stitch called a 3 double crochet cluster into the next stitch, and I'll show you how to do that step by step if you've not come across this stitch before. So yarn over, put your hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. So what we've done here is we've made a partial double crochet. We've made a double crochet stitch, that's a US double crochet, up until the final yarn over and pull through. And then next we're going to make 2 more of these partial double crochets into the same stitch. So yarn over, put your hook into the same stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. And again, yarn over, put your hook into the same stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. You should now have 4 loops on your crochet hook. Yarn over and pull through all 4 loops. So this stitch here is a 3 DCCL, a 3 double crochet cluster. So as you can see, we've made 3 partial double crochets and joined them at the top to form the cluster. So to turn this cluster into a bobble, we're going to do a single crochet in the next stitch. So I'm going to go down here and make a single crochet. And if I turn it over to the front, you should see that because we're working these taller stitches on a row of the shorter stitches, it kind of pushes it out to form a bobble. And we're going to repeat this all the way around the blanket. So I'll show you that bobble stitch again. So yarn over, put your hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, put your hook into the same stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, put your hook into the same stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. You should now have 4 loops on your crochet hook, yarn over and pull through all 4 loops. Then single crochet into the next stitch, forming that bobble. So repeat this all the way around your blanket, working a bobble stitch, so that 3 double crochet, cluster into the next stitch, single crochet, cluster, single crochet, cluster, single crochet, all the way around your blanket, and then I'll meet you back here at the end and I'll show you how we fasten off. So I've made it all the way around my blanket and I've just done a single crochet. Now, depending on your number of stitches on your blanket, you will either have 1 or 2 stitches here. If you've got 1 stitch here like me, you're going to work your cluster stitch into that last stitch. If you've got 2 stitches here, it doesn't really matter which of those 2 stitches you make your bobble into, because you're going to skip the other stitch. And you won't be able to notice it very much from the front that you've skipped a stitch there, and it just means that everything stays nice and neat at the end. So go ahead and work that final cluster stitch, and then to finish off, slip stitch in this first stitch. Then you can fasten off and weave in your ends. This is what the finished border looks like from the front. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial, and I'll pop a playlist here for some more tutorials you might want to try next.